Have you ever felt stuck, like you're dragging the weight of yesterday everywhere you go? Caught in old routines, outdated beliefs, and habits that just don't fit anymore? You're not alone. A lot of us are quietly living versions of ourselves that no longer reflect who we really want to be. But imagine this, waking up tomorrow with a clean slate. A chance to reshape your identity from the ground up. That's what this video is all about, radical reinvention. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "Become who you are." And that isn't just some poetic phrase to throw on a Pinterest board. It's a direct challenge, a call to action, a dare to let go of the outdated version of yourself and step into something bolder, something more aligned with your own vision. Now, here's the truth. Transformation starts with letting go. Picture an old, crumbling wooden bridge, rotting, fragile, warped by time and regret. That bridge is the you from before, the habits you've outgrown, the stories you keep telling yourself, the beliefs that once protected you but now just hold you back. In your hand is a match. And lighting it? That's not destruction, it's creation. It's clearing a path for what's next. Nietzsche also said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." That kind of purpose, the kind that lights a fire inside you, gives you the strength to face any challenge. But here's the thing, you can't build that future while still clinging to the past. You've got to release it first. So, why do we hold on? Why do we stick with routines that don't serve us anymore? The answer's simple. They feel safe, familiar. Our brains are wired to default to what we know, even when it's hurting us. In fact, think of your brain like an operating system that hasn't been updated in years. The same scripts are running, the same patterns repeating, long after they've become obsolete. Nietzsche had a thought for that too. No price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. When you finally realize the version of you you've been living in was built for a different time, a different you open the door to change. So start by asking yourself, why am I still stuck in these patterns? What would it take to rewrite my inner programming? It might sound like a lot, but real change starts with asking the right questions. Think of your life like a book. Every chapter you've lived through has shaped you. Some brought growth, some just repeated the same old loops. The question is, which parts of that story are still helping you grow? And which parts are just weight you don't need to carry anymore? Now, don't mistake this process for denial or forgetting. Transformation isn't about erasing your history, it's about reclaiming it, reinterpreting it, using it as the raw material for something new, something better. Nietzsche put it beautifully. And those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. In other words, not everyone is going to understand your transformation. And that's okay. Sometimes the path to becoming your truest self looks strange or even reckless from the outside. But that's the price of authenticity. And now we can actually back this up with neuroscience. Modern research shows that your brain craves the familiar. It builds strong neural pathways that make old habits feel like home, even if they're harmful. But thanks to something called neuroplasticity, we now know that your brain can change. It's not fixed, it's adaptable. Every time you make a new choice, a new thought, a new habit, you're carving out a new neural path. Imagine your brain like a garden. The weeds? Those are your outdated beliefs, your self-doubt. But with effort, with attention, you can pull those weeds out and plant something new. And yes, it's uncomfortable. At times, it's chaos. But as Nietzsche once said, one must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. So embrace the chaos. Embrace the tension. Because every tiny, intentional step you take toward becoming a new version of yourself, that's you, actively rewiring your future. So, how do we actually start this process of radical reinvention? Let's ground these big ideas into real, doable steps. Something you can actually start applying to your life today. First up, daily self-reflection. Set aside time every day just a few minutes, in a quiet space. No distractions, no phone. Just you, your thoughts, and maybe a journal. Start writing. Anything. Everything. Write about what's working and what's not, what habits you want to drop, what kind of person you're trying to become. Don't worry about making it perfect or profound. This isn't for anyone else. It's for you. Journaling works because it forces your mind to slow down, to notice. And once you start noticing, you can start choosing. Choosing what stays and what needs to go. Next, call out your limiting beliefs. You've probably got a mental playlist of thoughts on loop, things like, I'm not good enough, or I'll never change, or people like me don't do things like that. These are just old scripts. Most of them aren't even yours. They came from someone else, your childhood, your environment, your past failures. Here's what you do. Make a list of those thoughts. Every single one. Then for each, ask, where did this come from? Is it actually true? Do I want to keep believing this? And here's the kicker. Replace it. For every negative loop, create a new one. So instead of, I can't do this, it becomes, I'm learning to grow. Instead of, I always fail, you tell yourself, I'm not who I was. I'm becoming someone new. Remember Nietzsche's words, invisible threads are the strongest ties. The beliefs you don't question are the ones that bind you the tightest. Now, let's get even more practical. Set goals, real ones, specific ones. Ask yourself, what do I want to build? What does success look like for me, not for my parents, my boss, or society? Be precise. Want to get in shape? Don't say get fit. Say, I'm committing to 30 minutes of movement every day. Want to start a business? Don't just say launch something. Say, I'm setting up a site by the end of the month and finding 3 beta clients. Use the SMART method: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. These goals become your checkpoints, your signposts on the road to change. And here's something most people overlook. Rituals matter. Not just goals, not just mindset. Daily actions, tiny things that reinforce who you're becoming. Morning journaling, evening walks, a cold shower, a creative hour every Saturday. These aren't just tasks, they're statements. Prove to yourself that you're serious about this transformation. Because here's the truth. You become what you consistently do, and the identity you're trying to build. It lives in your habits. But, just as important as building new habits, is knowing what to let go of. This is called strategic disengagement. Look around your life. What relationships constantly pull you back into old patterns? What environments drain you? What habits feel comfortable but leave you feeling stuck? You don't have to cut everything out all at once, but you do have to start noticing, and then, one by one, making different choices. Maybe it's distancing from people who only see the old you. Maybe it's redesigning your workspace to reflect who you're becoming. Maybe it's swapping that mindless scroll for a book, or a podcast, or just silence. And yes, it'll feel uncomfortable, because you're stepping into the unknown. But here's the secret. Uncertainty isn't your enemy, it's your ally. Every time you feel unsure, anxious, a little lost, that's the signal you're leaving the old path and forging a new one. It's scary, yes, but it's also where the magic happens. Nietzsche said it best. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. So what's your why? What vision is pulling you forward? Let that be your anchor when the discomfort hits. Let that be your North Star when nothing makes sense. And finally, don't go it alone. Find your people, the ones who get it, the ones who are also growing, evolving, changing. Join a group, find a mentor, talk to friends who challenge you. Transformation might be a personal journey, but it doesn't have to be a lonely one. When you surround yourself with others on a similar path, you accelerate, you reflect, you feel seen, and you get reminded, on the days when you forget, that this version of you is worth fighting for. Let's talk about something that often gets overlooked on the path to reinvention: self-assessment. Real change doesn't just come from a one-time decision, it comes from tracking your decisions over time. So once a week or once a month, hit pause. Ask yourself, what's working right now? What habits are still lingering from the old me? Where have I made progress? What feels misaligned? Be brutally honest, but also incredibly kind. This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about course correcting. You're not just changing, you're evolving, and every evolution needs reflection. Use these check-ins to tweak your goals. Maybe that habit isn't sticking because it needs to happen at a different time of day. Maybe you need support. Or maybe the goal itself needs a better reason behind it. Progress isn't always linear. It zigs and zags. You might stumble, regress, get discouraged. That's normal. The key is not letting that moment define you. Instead, use it. Learn from it. Because here's the truth. The old version of you won't go quietly. That voice, the one that tells you to stay small, stay safe, stay the same, it's going to show up. Especially when you start doing things differently. And when that happens, don't ignore it. Don't fight it with force. Observe it. Ask yourself, what is this resistance trying to protect? What fear is hiding underneath this habit? Resistance usually points to something deeper, some need that's not being met. Maybe it's safety. Maybe it's validation. Maybe it's control. And when you understand that, you can start addressing the need in healthier ways. This is what real inner work looks like. It's messy. It's non-linear. It's a dance between who you've been and who you're becoming. But once you've faced the resistance head-on, there's something powerful waiting on the other side, your new identity. So, let's start designing it. Think about this. If you could build a completely new version of you from scratch, what values would guide it? What would success look like now, not 5 years ago? Forget society's metrics. Forget the version of success you inherited from your parents, your school, your past. This is your chance to define success your way. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, or Overman, is relevant here. It's about becoming the architect of your own life, creating your own values, living by your own rules. You don't have to accept the default identity you were handed. You get to craft one that fits. So what does that look like in practice? Start with intention setting. Write down your values, your non-negotiables. Who do you want to be when no one's watching? What do you want your life to feel like? Then, make it real. Create a personal manifesto, a statement of the life you're building, or build a vision board with images, quotes, and symbols that inspire you. These tools aren't fluff, they're anchors. When the journey gets hard, and it will, these serve as reminders of why you started. And here's something else most people miss. Your new identity isn't a destination. It's a practice, a series of micro-choices every day that slowly stack up to become who you are. So build rituals that remind you of that identity. A morning coffee where you reread your intentions. A walk every evening to reflect on your day. A monthly sit-down to review your goals and refine your direction. These aren't chores. They're ceremonies. Each one is a vote for the person you're becoming. And when life throws you curveballs, and it will, you won't panic. Because you'll have something solid to return to. A foundation, a rhythm. A self that's been chosen, not inherited. This process takes time. And there will be moments where you question everything. That's part of the deal. Transformation isn't linear. It's more like spiraling upward, revisiting old themes, but from a higher perspective each time. You'll face challenges. You'll face people who don't get it. You'll face parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. But every time you meet those moments with intention, honesty, and courage, you grow. You're not erasing the old you. You're integrating it. You're using it as fuel to become something more. At this point in the journey, it's important to recognize something critical. You're not just building habits. You're building a legacy. And that legacy begins with how you treat yourself today. That's why sustaining transformation isn't about one-time breakthroughs. It's about consistent, deliberate effort. It's about nurturing your identity with care, like a garden that needs watering, pruning, and sunlight. One of the most powerful ways to do that. Daily gratitude. Every morning or night, take a minute, literally just 60 seconds, to acknowledge what's working. What are you proud of? What small wins did you have today? Even if it's as simple as saying no to a bad habit or showing up for yourself when you didn't feel like it, celebrate that. Because those tiny wins, they compound. They reinforce the new neural pathways you're building. They remind you that change is happening, even when it's slow. Another powerful ritual, intentional solitude. We live in a noisy world, constant notifications, social media, emails. But real transformation happens in the quiet. In those in-between moments where you get to hear yourself think, make space for stillness. Take a silent walk. Meditate for 5 minutes. Sit with your thoughts before bed. Don't fill every gap with noise. In the silence, your true self gets a chance to speak. And let's talk about another essential part of this journey, flexibility. Life is unpredictable. Your path will shift. Some of the goals you set might become irrelevant. Some rituals might stop working. That's okay. Adapt. Think of your transformation like a living, breathing system. It evolves with you. When something stops working, don't view it as failure, view it as feedback. When a detour shows up, ask, what is this moment teaching me? How can I pivot while still honoring my purpose? Nietzsche once said, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. Setbacks aren't the end of the road. They're part of it. And if you really internalize that truth, you'll start to see obstacles not as barriers, but as invitations. Opportunities to refine your strategy, strengthen your mindset, and deepen your commitment. Here's something else to keep in mind. Your transformation is bigger than you. Yes, this is your personal journey. But the impact of it ripples outward. Every time you show up as your truest self, you give permission to others to do the same. You become an example, not of perfection, but of possibility. You're proving that people can change. That growth is real, that reinvention is within reach. As Nietzsche put it, no one can build you the bridge on which you must cross the river of life, no one but you yourself. But that doesn't mean you walk alone. Transformation is a collective experience. Surround yourself with people who are also evolving. Share your story. Celebrate your wins, publicly, even if they feel small. You never know who you might inspire. And here's one last tool that'll help you stay grounded: regular reflection checkpoints. Once a month, set aside a block of time, an hour, maybe 2. Look back at everything: your journal, your goals, your progress. Ask, what have I learned this month? What am I proud of? What still feels misaligned? What needs to change moving forward? Don't just let time pass by unconsciously. Own it, use it, shape it. Each month is a chapter in your transformation story. Make sure you're the one writing it, intentionally, deliberately, courageously. And when resistance shows up again, and trust me, it will, greet it like an old friend. Say, there you are. I see you. I know you're trying to keep me safe. But I'm not who I was. I've outgrown this story, and I'm choosing something new. That level of self-awareness, that's power. Because in the end, the most radical act of self-love isn't just accepting who you are, it's choosing who you're becoming, and doing it over and over again, no matter how messy or uncertain the road gets. Now that you've walked through the fire of reflection, choice, and reinvention, it's time to take ownership of what comes next. Because this isn't just about change for the sake of change. It's about creating something bigger, something lasting. A life that reflects the very core of who you are. So take a breath and ask yourself, what kind of future do I want to build? And just as importantly, who am I becoming in the process? Nietzsche had a phrase that ties everything together: become who you are. It's a reminder that the truest version of you isn't invented out of thin air, it's discovered through action, through self-honesty, through burning the old bridges that no longer carry your weight. And those bridges, They aren't failures, they're milestones. They're symbols of release. Each one you burn is proof that you're no longer bound by yesterday. That's why now is the moment to reflect on the legacy you're building. Because whether you realize it or not, you're already leaving a mark, through your words, your habits, your presence. So ask, what story will people tell about the version of me that stepped into transformation? How will my journey encourage others to grow? And that brings us to one of Nietzsche's most haunting lines. He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. Heavy, right? But what he's saying is this: be mindful of your inner battle. Change is powerful, but it can turn toxic if we lose ourselves in the struggle. Reinvention isn't about rejecting who you were with anger or shame. It's about rising above it, with clarity, with grace, with purpose. So, let that wisdom serve as a compass. Make sure your path of transformation stays rooted in love for your past self, for your future self, and for the world you're impacting along the way. And now comes the most important moment of all: action. Because the ideas you've heard in this video, the quotes, the philosophy, the strategies, they're not worth anything if they stay theoretical. They need your energy, your decision, your movement. So ask yourself right now, what new thought can I commit to today? What habit will I let go of tonight? Who can I become if I stop waiting and start doing? Every moment you delay is a moment you're still tethered to the past, and your future deserves better than that. So strike the match. Burn the bridge, not to run away, but to clear a path forward. One that's wide open, one that's yours. Transformation is rarely flashy. It's not always dramatic. It's often a quiet decision made in the middle of an ordinary day. And yet, that's where real power lives. In the consistency, in the commitment, in the choice to rise, again and again. Because here's the beautiful truth. Every small victory matters. Each new ritual, each rewired thought, each step away from the old you and toward the new. That's what builds your new identity. Not overnight, but over time. And when life inevitably throws you off course, when doubt creeps in or the progress feels slow, come back to this. Every transformative journey begins with a single step. Take that step, and then another, and another. And as you do, let the world witness your rise, not as someone who had it all figured out, but as someone who was brave enough to begin. Because that is what true transformation looks like. So go ahead, burn the bridge, step forward, become who you are, and build a future as bold, brilliant, and boundless as your dreams.